Releasing Control Alt Restriction Systems 3, 2, 1. Approval Situation A recognized. Commencing the Cromwell invocation. Ability restrictions lifted for limited use until the enemy has been rendered silent. The Black Critic Guy, still battling a sickness at the moment, but I had to come back to give you all my review on the anime OVA series, Hellsing Ultimate. Now, Hellsing Ultimate follows a secret British task force called the Hellsing Organization, specialized in handling and eliminating threats of the supernatural variety, led by Sir Integra Fairbrook Wingates Hellsing. Get used to hearing that name throughout the series, and her watchdog, the Vampire King, Alucard. As the frequency of vampire and ghoul attacks rises across the UK, the Hellsing organization starts investigating who could be behind this sudden increase, and they discover that it's a group called Millennium, made up of remnants of the defeated Nazi party, whose main goal is to start a new VAR and defeat the Dog of Hellsing, Alucard. And from here, man, all hell breaks loose, literally. Now, I have been well aware of the Hellsing franchise since I was a teenager entering high school, around 2007, 2008. I remember watching the first two OVAs, and I loved the shit out of them. Then I discovered that there was also an anime series based off of Hellsing. I watched that, and yeah, it wasn't as good as the OVA series, both in animation, character, and story. And I did not like that the last few episodes were entirely filler and went against what the original manga was. I mean, Incognito, really? If I were to grade that series, I would give it maybe an it's okay, or maybe easily forgettable. It just wasn't as remarkable or as good as Hellsing Ultimate. But around the time that I moved to Florida, I decided to put watching Hellsing Ultimate on hold. Mostly because at that time, around 2009 and 10, they only released 4 OVAs in English dub, and I watched all of them, and I was getting a bit impatient waiting for the next OVA. So I just decided, you know what? I'm gonna wait for the entire series to be finished, and then I'll get back to it. Fast forward 7 or 8 years later, I moved back to Guam. I'm sitting at my laptop and I see that Team 4-Star released a new Hellsing Ultimate Abridged, which I highly recommend. If you love Hellsing Ultimate, you will love the shit out of Hellsing Ultimate Abridged. In fact, in my opinion, it's the best abridged series I've ever seen. But after watching that, it really piqued my curiosity in Hellsing Ultimate again. And I decided to revisit this old OVA series and see if it still holds up and whether or not I would still love it as much as I did as a teenager. And after watching all 10 episodes, I finally completed it. Only took me 10 years to do so. I have to say, I still love the shit out of Hellsing Ultimate. In fact, you could almost say that I have a newfound respect for this series, and I like it for more things than just the blood, gore, and tits. Well, not really tits. Now, in a typical review of mine, I would start off by praising the animation, which I will in a moment. But I want to switch it up a bit and talk about something else that really stood out to me the first time I was watching Hellsing all over again. And that's the fact that as a history buff, I freaking loved the historical and cultural references that were scattered throughout this series. To give a few examples of this, in episode 3, when Alucard is killing the military officers outside the hotel, he throws them on flagpoles and impales them. This is both a reference to Bram Stoker's Dracula and to the historical figure Dracula was based on, Vlad Dracula, who is widely known as Vlad the Impaler. Here's another one you probably didn't notice. In episode 4, when Alucard is killing Rip Van Winkle, the scene is done in a very sensual and provocative manner. This was an intentional choice from the creators, who I believe were trying to replicate the manners of Dracula from Bram Stoker's story, as even Stoker himself said that the way Dracula sucks people's blood is very similar to sex. Now here's a reference that's proof positive that the creator of Hellsing did his research. In episode 6, when Maxwell Enrico decides to eradicate the people of London, he's accompanied by an army of guys that look like this. Now at first glance, you might think that these guys are Ku Klux Klan members. And it would be a safe conclusion to make since there are Nazis in this series too, but these are actually traditional robes worn by Spanish Catholic priests that predate the Klan. How and why the Klan decided to adopt that look, I have no clue. Maybe it was just a coincidence, or maybe they thought it fit well with their themes. All I'm saying is that when you look at these characters, do not compare these characters to these fuckers. But without question, the best, most clever, and my personal favorite reference out of all of them was with this character. Now I'm not gonna give away what exactly he's a reference to. Instead, I'm just going to hint at it by showing you a picture of the character and putting his name at the bottom. Did you get it? Pretty damn smart, isn't it? And he wasn't named that by accident. It was very much intentional. In fact, his name gives away what exactly his powers are and plays a vital role in the story. His character and what he serves, absolute genius on the part of the creator, and goes to show you that Hellsing Ultimate is not some mindless shoot 'em beat 'em up gore fest. And now let's get back to the routine. Let me praise the animation. The animation is extremely flashy and striking. It stands out immediately as the art style is so vastly different from most modern day anime, with the art being both realistic and exaggerated. The shading used creates this haunting, larger-than-life atmosphere and makes the colors really pop out, especially with the lenses. Boy, do they love to show off them lenses. And speaking of lenses, the eyes of every character are so unique. They might be the most unique eye styles I've ever seen in an anime to date. The action scenes in Hellsing Ultimate are ultra-violent, insane, brutal, over the top, and god fucking damn it, I loved every single second of it. Left and right, just people getting eviscerated, blood flying everywhere, sword and guns clashing, people in close combat exchanging blows. It's an action lover's wet dream. And you would think that with a clearly overpowered character like Alucard, that there'd be no tension in any of the action. But you'd be wrong. I was on edge in every altercation. The outcomes might be obvious, but the journey is so exhilarating to watch that it clearly trumps it. The English dub is tremendous. It's arguably one of the best English dubs out there. Every single performance was strong, convincing, distinct, and quite riveting to hear. From the sultry and intimidating voice of Crispin Freeman as Alucard, one of the best performances he's ever given, and by the way, he does the best evil laugh I've ever heard in an English dub. Like, kudos to him for selling the role. To the strangely reserved yet equally menacing voice of Gildart Jackson as the Major. The story, while giving off the appearance of a straightforward, simplistic, over-the-top action anime, is quite sophisticated, intricate, very well written, and enthralling from beginning to end. They take the tired old concept of a secret organization facing off against an evil organization to save the world and add a unique spin to it. Not only the supernatural aspect, but also in having the main antagonist accomplish their scheme for war not even halfway through the series and giving us a 6-episode long battle/climax with 3 opposing sides all fighting among each other and vying for dominance. The characters are absolutely incredible, fascinating, and complex. They caught my eye the moment they appear on screen. Now, of course, I'm going to talk about Alucard first because why not? He's the most iconic character of the series, arguably the main character of the series, and he stands out the most. Now, I could sit here and ramble on and on about how cool and badass he is, which he is, but instead I would like to focus on delving into the subtle complexities of Alucard. With Alucard, we have ourselves a fine example of a damaged and emotionally frail character who hides under the facade of a fuck-mothering vampire. A man who has been through so much in his life, has seen some horrible shit, and has committed such atrocities in his 500-year lifespan, and seeks for someone to end his suffering. One of the most striking moments in regards to Alucard in the series was this really brief scene in episode 3.
You're a monster!
And what does that make you who would stand against me, soldier? A man? A dog? A monster?
That small and relatively insignificant exchange stuck with me to the very end of the series and sparked so many questions in my head. Like, why was he so upset about this? Being the badass fuck-mothering vampire that he is, wouldn't he find enjoyment in instilling such fear in the hearts of his enemies to the point where they would rather commit suicide than confronting him? Why would he get so worked up about this insignificant thing? And that's when it hit me. I realized that that minuscule thing played a major part in Alucard's story and arc. For you see, Alucard is actually seeking a worthy adversary, a worthy challenger that can not only fearlessly face him, but also defeat him and put an end to his torture. That's why he gets excited when he sees Alexander Anderson, why he laughed hysterically when the Major made his declaration of war. These are men that are openly and willingly confronting Alucard, calling him out by name, and willing to take on the challenge of defeating him. These are foes that are worthy of dethroning and defeating the Vampire King. And speaking of his foes, his rivalry with Alexander Anderson is one of the greatest rivalries in anime. Up there with the likes of Goku and Vegeta, Yusuke and Hiei, the list can go on. You know you're in for something great when these two collide. And I find it somewhat strange how Anderson is supposedly the antithesis to Alucard, yet they share so many similar qualities. Both are incredibly powerful, confrontational, fearless, and laugh maniacally at the destruction of their enemies. But where they part ways is Anderson is quite devout, cares deeply for the children at his orphanage, and loves his team, the Iscariot organization, which makes him more rounded as a character. As for Zenaidia, just like how Alucard and Anderson have one of the greatest rivalries in anime, he is undoubtedly one of the greatest masterminds ever put in an anime. Up there with the likes of Light Yagami and Lelouch v Britannia. And no, I'm not joking. His grand master plan was a stroke of genius. It was absolutely brilliant, and it blew my fucking mind just to see it come to fruition. It was meticulously planned to the tiniest detail over the course of 50 years. And by George, it did not disappoint. I couldn't help but start applauding once it was all over. I was completely entranced by this guy. It's one of the greatest, most effective grand schemes ever pulled off in an anime. Zenaidia, as a character, was transcendent. Never has a villain, much less a Nazi scumbag, enticed me so damn much with his bravado, charisma, practicality, and unwavering determination. He set his mind to a goal and he saw it to the very end, no matter the cost. Even when it seemed like he was at a disadvantage, he seemed so calm and collected, confident in his abilities, and unfazed by unfavorable outcomes. In fact, you can make the argument that he planned it from the very beginning. And I hate to admit this, guys, but I kind of rooted for him to succeed because his grand scheme was so methodical, so well planned out. I actually wanted to see how it was going to be executed and whether or not he would actually be able to pull it off. So I was in the back of my mind saying, as much as I want Alucard to kick this guy's ass and beat everybody up, I want to see where this is going. I'm so curious about it. And the Major, God man, this guy, he just made me kind of root for him. He's just like, yeah, I'm out to do this one thing and nobody's gonna get in my way. And I'm like, you know what? I admire your determination and I respect your fortitude. To me, he's the Joker reincarnated in anime form. A man willing to throw the entire world into chaos just to get the upper hand on a foe. And he does exactly that in Hellsing Ultimate. He also delivers some of the best villain speeches and monologues I've ever heard in an anime. And he doesn't just do it once, he does it 4 times. I guess you could say that I am quite taken by the Major, if that wasn't clear enough. The other cast of characters such as Integra, Saris, Walter, Pip, Penwood, and Maxwell are all great in their own right and each got some time and focus given to them, a lot of great insight and proper development. I was quite surprised what they did with the character Penwood. He seemed like such a small, insignificant supporting character that didn't seem like he was going to amount to much, but they went out of the way to give him some proper development and growth and a great send-off. I mean, by the end, I'm like, wow, that guy was actually a stand-up character. I really like you, Penwood. You're the real OG. I also would like to praise this anime for its exemplary job at building strong and convincing camaraderie and chemistry among its characters and establishing strong team rapport. You get an understanding of each of the teams in this series. You root for them, you understand them, you empathize with their situations whenever they're facing an enemy or in a dire situation, and you feel the pain that they feel when they witness one of their friends, one of their fellow comrades getting killed and slaughtered right in front of them. One of the most impactful moments in Hellsing Ultimate, and yeah, there are many impactful moments in the series, but this one really stood out to me and kind of showed the humanity of a character that I always thought was pretty cold and heartless and didn't really care about anybody, but then this moment changed my opinion of this character and showed me that the character is more three-dimensional than was led on to be. And that was a scene in episode 2 where Sir Integra Fairbrook Wingate's Hellsing is standing outside of her office or standing outside of a conference room and is witnessing her men being slaughtered by the police girl, Saris Victoria. Now, of course, she had to do this because they were no longer her soldiers. They were ghouls being controlled by the enemy, so they had to be put down. But that doesn't change the fact that these are people that she has trusted for so many years, people that she has worked with. You just see the shock in her face, the heartbreak that she's feeling, seeing her men being slaughtered left and right by the police girl. And when she goes up to the police girl and tells her to stop, you feel the pain and sorrow coming from the character. And once again, I thought that this character was going to be cold, vindictive, heartless, like just doesn't give a fuck about anybody. But this small moment shows that there is some humanity left in Integra. She may not show it all the time, but there is an actual human in there that cares deeply about human life. And I'm glad that the series went out of the way to highlight this factor. Now, as always, guys, I like to be forthcoming with you all. I didn't find any major problems with Hellsing Ultimate, but I do have a couple nitpicks with it. They don't really detract much from the series or the story or the characters, but I did find them rather annoying. And I'm like, oh man, if you just took that out, this would have been a perfect series. One of the biggest irritations I had with this OVA series is the fact that characters would constantly have to say their names to other people, and some of their names are pretty damn long. I swear to God, watch the first episode and take a shot every time somebody says Sir Integra, Fairbrook, Wingate, Hellsing. It's like almost every other minute somebody is saying her name. We get who the character is. Not to mention that there's so much exposition that they just spew out constantly. And I would be okay with that because some of this information needs to be relayed to the audience. But they do it over and over again. They have to keep spelling out things to us, and I'm like, we already know that. I think one of the biggest offenders of this was in the first episode again. In fact, most of the problems with the exposition and people saying names repeatedly happens in the first episode. It happens throughout the series, but the first episode is the biggest offender of this. But one of the biggest offenders in episode 1 is when they're talking about Paladin Alexander Anderson. They give us his background information, what he can do, what his power sets are, and then we go visit him and they do the same thing over again. Paladin Alexander Anderson, oh, they gave you all these powers. I'm like, guys, you're a visual medium. Show, don't tell. Come on, you were doing a great job with your compelling story that's rich with detail and intricate writing. How did you miss this? Another nitpick I had is in regards to Sarah's Victoria. Now, if there's one thing I felt that the anime series got right, there wasn't much, but the one thing that it did get right was that they focused mostly on Sarah's Victoria's perspective on things and really focused on her transition from being a human into a vampire. And I liked that they gave a good build-up to her transitioning from being a human to accepting the fact that she's a vampire. In the OVA series, I think we're given, what, 1 or 2 scenes where she battles with her humanity and tries to accept the fact that she's a vampire. It doesn't get that much focus, but I will say that the development that she's given in the series is still great. It's solid. Overall, guys, to sum it all up, I said it best on my Twitter a couple days ago. Hellsing Ultimate is the animated HBO series that we never got. It has all the makings of a great HBO limited series and then some. Compelling storytelling, rich characters, great world building, amazing visuals, epic action scenes, great music. It hits every single mark that this series needs to hit, and then some. And I don't think that Hellsing Ultimate should just be considered this mindless action gore fest. It's much deeper than that. It's much more than that, and it deserves more praise than just a mindless action series. There's depth and complexity found in Hellsing Ultimate. It's rich and bursting with small little details and references that you probably didn't notice until somebody pointed them out to you. And it's because of all these elements that I have no shame in saying that Hellsing Ultimate is an epic masterpiece. And if you have not seen it yet, go watch it. It's great. But as always, guys, I'm not the end-all be-all opinion when it comes to Hellsing Ultimate. I would love to know what you guys thought of this OVA series as well. Do you love it to death? Is it one of your favorite OVA series of all time? Or just find it boring, dull, overhyped, overrated, you just couldn't get into it? And let me know, who is your favorite vampire or vampire hunter or maybe mythical creature hunter you've seen in an anime? Comment below, let me know, and stay tuned. I'm hoping to get more videos out this week. I've been battling a sickness, and I'm still kind of battling it at the moment while I'm doing this review, but hopefully I'll get better soon so I can get to more videos. I want to finish my top 10 list. I want to do this bad boy, react to this guy. Hopefully, oh, it's upside down. Hopefully it's good. And I have a bunch of other reviews I want to get to before the end of this month so that I can focus on working on BCG Disney Week in November. So much to do, not a lot of time, so I'm just gonna cut it here. I want to take this time to thank all of the patrons who donated to my Patreon account. Their names are being listed right here. And if you would like to support this channel and keep it afloat, think about donating to my Patreon account. Link is in the description. And as always, guys, if you'd like to see more videos on this channel, be a part of the Black Critic Crew, please hit the subscribe button below, like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm talking about a second, the vampire known as the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.
Werewolf bar mitzvah, spooky, scary, boys becoming men, men becoming wolf. Werewolf for mitzvah, spooky.